What's going on, traders? If you've been tuning in to our channel, I feel like at this point you're well acquainted with who I am. But on the flip side, welcome to Digital Goatz Academy. This is our market forecast segment. Let me go ahead and open up the charts. Now, if you have been following our channel, you know our last video we were discussing indices and what their overall direction might be going into the new year or, starting off this year. And I'm still sticking with my bias until we get a little bit more clarity. The one thing is that tomorrow we do have interest rate decisions. And for what Bloomberg was talking about all last year, there's supposed to be a bunch of rate cuts priced in. We do have to still wait for that data to be released tomorrow, but based off of what I'm seeing with US 30, if I'm just going purely off the technicals, well, one, let's not jump the gun, but let's also break down like what's been happening with US 30 specifically. I only really want to discuss US 30 and Bitcoin because I think those are going to be some opportunities for traders but based off my bias, but also shout out to gold, right? Gold hit 5K, which was pretty amazing. I don't think anybody was expecting that. Well, long-term investors, but yeah, shout out to gold. But let's just break down what US 30 has been doing overall. Now, if you look at US 30 right now, it's basically been in a ranging pattern. So it hasn't really broken out of its high that it's made. It hasn't really broken out of this low that price decided to make last Tuesday? Yeah, this was last Tuesday. And this is towards an area that, I kind of ignored because I didn't think their price would respect that. But look at that. That was consolidation right there. Now, let's look at what US 30's been doing like within this range. So let me see. This was after New Year's. So after New Year's, we got that volatility spike or, that rally. You know what I'm saying? Once we got this rally, price basically didn't go anywhere. We've been building resistance up here, but we've also been building somewhat of support. And it's kind of hard to make out what direction that the market is trying to go, which on a higher time frame, we would say what? This is consolidation. But I'd rather say range because there were still opportunities within these formations or within these moves, right? So this was a good move. This was a good move. This was a good move, and we caught some of this. But if you just look at the structure by turning it into a line chart, right? You can see that the market, each high has been getting lower, right? It's a lower high, right? Lower than the last high. So based off of that sequence, not to mention this past week, we had the market dip down. If you know anything about how the market moves when it's buying up, you normally see this better with like selling patterns, but the market will dip down, come back up, test the resistance area again, but price will start to get lower and lower. Now we are waiting for what price is going to do like tomorrow and if we are going to break down a little bit lower. But identify some of the things that can be indicators for you spotting like a downtrend or if the market is going to push a little bit further down than what other traders expected, right? Because I know we were all like in high hopes of US 30 going sky high. Not to mention that World Economic Forum that took place last week, with Trump basically saying that we're going to go to 50K off of US 30. I don't think he has that power. I just think he has that influence. So, with that being said, I think the market is it reacted to that, but I don't think it's gonna stay in that direction, right? And for now, because again, if you've been following us, you know that we're still overall bullish. Man, there was something I was gonna say to the market being bullish. But anyway, we have an interest rate decision tomorrow. We don't know if it's a cut. We know it's not a hike, but the verdict should be a cut if it's priced in. So what we'll have is, I don't think Jerome Powell's talking. I think somebody else is going to talk. Hopefully it's Jerome Powell, but what we're going to have is the information being released. That's going to have a reaction in the market. And then whatever meeting they have where maybe they have a meeting, they have the president doing like a meeting. I doubt it. It should be somebody from the Federal Reserve. But they have a meeting. Once they start their conversation piece, the market is going to react in based off of what they're saying because that's investors, um, you know, opinions getting swayed based off of the outcome of those conversations, right? So that's what we should be basically expecting tomorrow. Now, I don't know if that's going to be equal across the board for indices. I'm still bearish on USD, I mean US 30, but as far as like S&P and Nasdaq, I'm kind of unsure to be honest. What I will say is that, and I'm gonna go back to US 30. What I will say is that S&P hit this resistance. This was the highest point that we saw it travel currently. Well, I mean, if you factor in that wick that like barely spiked it, almost spiked 7K, but it didn't hit that area. I think that price is trying to reject this, to be honest. I saw that price was bullish today, and then we got a little bit of a downtrend. I mean, we got a little bit of a pullback based in this area when the market was deciding to, I mean, when the market was about to close. But this is resistance, you know what I'm saying? We're going to see if price still respects that. Now, again, if you've been tuning in, I discussed that I didn't think that S&P was gonna fill this gap 100%. It did, you know what I'm saying? So the fact that it did, that's kind of like I wouldn't say that's an indicator for a bull move, but that was a necessary move that we kind of needed because that kind of left me confused if price didn't collect it 100%. We're still early in the year, so I would rather see that stuff happen than later on where that stuff can create confusion. If you were trading last year and you saw how the tariffs were, I mean, how like when Trump's was mentioning tariffs, how that was making the market kind of react, and it was pretty wild, yo. But anyway, US 30, right? So just looking at it based off of what I just discussed, and oh, that's what I was gonna go to. This candle right here. So I'm an addict for visuals when it comes to the charts, you know what I'm saying? Like I try to identify things that look like different or obscured. So I've mentioned this before. I think even last year we discussed like when price leaves like candles like this, and if you turn it to a line chart, that stuff doesn't exist. Like that's an important notation to make, right? You definitely want to highlight that and make note of that. That okay, normally if that was a buy move, I would have saw something to this effect. You know what I'm saying? I would have saw like a V pattern. See, there's no information there on the line chart, but when you turn it to a candlestick, you see that there's a candle there. I think that the market is going to engulf that 100%. That's what I'm aiming for. And again, you know, I'm a little bit more riskier than most. I think this is going to be basically the pullback that we need. This is going to trigger the pullback unless tomorrow decision just makes the market Hail Mary up. Now, if it does do that, it could be creating resistance, but more than likely, if the market does get bullish and you see like a bullish engulfing candle tomorrow, then yeah, it's probably continuing to buy up. But we'll see. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking for more of a correction first before we buy back up, and then we'll make our decision from there, right? But just based off of today, this is what I wanted to see. Yesterday, the market dropped again towards the end of the day, and today it dropped like earlier in the morning, but it started consolidating as we started moving towards the end of the London session. I guess there was no momentum left over. And again, the market is trying to wait till tomorrow, which again, we can have a reaction in both directions. You just got to be open to that and pay attention. But we won't see that type of information until, I mean, with that type of move until 2 o'clock. So the coast should be clear up until like, 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Eastern time. After that, you kind of in no man's land. And we're hoping that the market still reacts like between tonight and going into the New York session tomorrow to kind of make sense of. I'm hoping that it puts us down here because that'd definitely be like, okay, the interest rate decision, even if they say something, it's probably just going to be a reaction that brings the market back up to test an area that we weren't paying attention to. Are you following me? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, as far as like US 30, I think that we're finally going to break this range, and I think that we're going to break it to the downside. I am surprised that, like I said, that S&P hasn't been following, but we did just kind of reject this resistance towards the end of the trading day. So that kind of got me like, hmm. we may actually push down from this overall area. Yeah. We'll see. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, normally you see S&P flow with US 30, but it doesn't. I definitely don't be expecting the Nasdaq to be doing what S&P and US 30 be doing. You know what I'm saying? And we still got resistance up here, so we'll just have to see how the market plays out tomorrow. But I don't trade the Nasdaq. I just like to look at it. Man, excuse me. But last but not least, and man, we're cutting this junk short. Bitcoin. So if you see the video that I either just dropped today or yesterday, basically the last video, I was discussing Bitcoin. That was the weekly review. So I was discussing Bitcoin and I said that if Bitcoin breaks this low, it's probably pushing down. Even though we had like a push up, I still think that the market is pushing down. This is consolidation, and it looks like prices is basically testing into the consolidation. I was expecting it to just sell off of here. But as you can see, that's not what happened. We still would need more information because, cryptocurrency is its own monster. But as far as like the downtrend, like it's been happening since, what is this? The end of last year. It built that resistance up here between July in October, and October is normally like a month where the market makes these type of moves and it tells you the direction. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that October brought us down, well, let's not even focus on the months. We look at the price stamp. We had already looked at 125,000 for Bitcoin to actually start selling off or correcting itself, building resistance there because it just makes sense. Excuse me. It just makes sense, right? But it broke out and hit 126,000. So it still built resistance right there. So the fact that we were expecting that and the market did do that, I'm looking at it to drive a little bit lower and correct itself, like probably in like the 65K territory. We'll see because 74K was our initial like support structure. We have to see if one price is coming back down to that area, but also if it breaks it. You just called me. But also if it breaks it. Based off of like what the market just did, like in this past, what is this? From November to the current month, January. I'm looking at this as again, can anytime I see consolidation after a move, again, if you've been following us, we've said this over and over again. Don't make this harder than what it needs to be, right? Anytime I've seen consolidation after a move, that's normally like just its correction to continue going in that direction. I was definitely not trying to rhyme. Don't block me, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, this consolidation pattern, and I know it kind of looks, let me remove this. This consolidation pattern, you see, it came from a selling move. Now, we could have said the same thing like over here, but this was based off of what we were already projecting after we saw that Bitcoin was on a bull run. We said that if we were expecting price to probably build resistance around 125K, 124K, something like that. It did that at 126. That was the highest point, sold off from there. And this is like on a higher time frame. Make it simple. We're correcting ourselves. Bitcoin does move digitally, but when it's moving like this, it's still moving like in an analog way. You know what I'm saying? So all you would have to do is just wait to see how price breaks out of this overall area. Like I said, I'm already expecting it because I really wish I would have been like selling it from here. But if you're a crypto bro and like you're confused, like I would say just wait and see for the market to actually like push down or a crypto girl. I don't want to be sexist out there and get banned, you know what I'm saying? Or a crypto girl, like I said, wait for the market to break out of this consolidation. This is clearly consolidation. Now, the one thing about cryptocurrency that we do have to keep in mind, Consolidation tends to be like where the market, where for a Forex pair, the market will pull back, like it'll break out of an area and pull back. Consolidation normally tends to like, um, replace that. You know what I'm saying? So normally where you would see a dip, you would see consolidation and then the market buy back up. So if we get one of those moves, that's kind of telling you the overall direction. But like I said, because we're basing it off of like what we were expecting the market to do last year, we're still going to ride that bias until the market shows us something different. At one point, I was looking at like Bitcoin to possibly it had to close above this area. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, it had to close above that area, and it just never did that. So I was believing that we were pushing up after we broke out of this area, built the support structure, and then pushed up a little bit high. But I just don't think that the market should have sold off so much, even if it was buying off. I felt like this area would have been good enough. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But as far as like the technicals are telling us, like I'm sticking with the bear move. US 30 been showing me that it's been building resistance. So I know that not necessarily cryptocurrency runs in tandem with indices, but if you look at the Nasdaq and Bitcoin, last year they were kind of moving very similar at certain points, you know what I'm saying? Or you probably could have found a cryptocurrency, I mean, a crypto token that was kind of moving like the NASDAQ. We're in the beginning of the year, so anything that's been priced in that hasn't reached the market yet, we're still waiting for that data, and then that's going to make it react. So we're now at the point where the market is moving based off of its own market cycle. So don't try to compare and contrast like currency pairs like with other ones, but just notice their movements. You know what I'm saying? The Nasdaq and cryptocurrency, they kind of play hand in hand because crypto is technically tech, you know what I'm saying? But they don't move like parallel to each other. But that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Like I'm expecting that. Especially when I saw how price moved, what was this past week? Especially we've been getting these gaps that have been pushing the market down. Like that's kind of like a light bulb right there. So once we get this news tomorrow, and you know what they've been saying last year is that there is going to be an interest rate cut priced in, and it could be in segment, it could be in like um what am I trying to say? Increments of 25, because that's how they did it last year to get a combined total of like 75 basis point. So we could get like, you know, it doing 25 and it'd be like subtle moves that's bringing the market down, but not like in a drastic way, like how we normally think when they start saying something, market is either going to get brought down or brought up heavily. I don't think that's probably what's going on, but we'll see. Again, we're still waiting on that information, but this would be our first major news after that World Economic Forum, which kind of gives us clarity on what the market is trying to do for the beginning of this year going into Q3. But yeah, I didn't want to discuss any Forex pairs today. We'll probably go over that on our live trading session. So that's all I got today, traders. I know this was a pretty short session, but I just wanted to focus on those two currency pairs and like their overall direction because those are the money makers, if you ask me. I don't trade Bitcoin, but just being in preparation to reinvest again, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. But you guys know who I am. Y'all can catch me on the next video with Digital Goats Academy. I will see y'all tomorrow, my group. And for anybody on YouTube, I'll see y'all Thursday. Hope y'all make a lot of money this week. Signing off. Peace.